Welcome to ATR Powerslam, Above the Ring's new YouTube show, covering you this weekend to provide you all the results from the week ending in March 4th, 2023, with a 15-minute time limit. We're your hosts, SOB, Scott, and Jon the Stat Man. This is going to be our first week. We will be including Ring of Honor. And we will be timing it this time, so we like to get a little reckless and not time anything. So, Scott, take it away with the results from Raw this past week.
All right. So Raw kicking off with Jey Uso still missing. So we had Jimmy Uso and Solo Sequoia come out and do the standard with the ones, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Street Profits come out. They have themselves one hell of a wrestling match, but Jimmy and Solo do get the victory. After that, we had Brock Lesnar accept his match with Omos for WrestleMania. Had a nice little VIP lounge. And it's interesting. After this segment, I'm kind of feeling this match, but we'll talk about that at a later date. We had Cody Rhodes come out for a tune-up before WrestleMania, taking on Chad Gable in probably Chad's best match that he's had to date. Fantastic match. Cody does get the victory. We had Asuka defeating Carmella, Candice LeRae defeating Piper Niven, and Seth Rollins had a lovely little FaceTime with Logan Paul. Inviting him to Raw for next week. Of course, The Miz getting involved as well, but The Miz getting destroyed because that's just what happens. After that, we had Bobby Lashley defeating Elias, Johnny Gargano defeating defeating Otis. Different O. And in surprise of the night, we had ourselves a women's tag team title match. It was Becky Lynch and Lita taking on Damage Control. We had another surprise with Trish Stratus coming back, helping Becky and Lita get the win, and they are now your new women's tag champions. Moving over to NXT, we started things off with one hell of a brawl. Literally, the entire backstage was fighting to come out to answer Wes Lee's North American Open Challenge. It was answered by the returning Nathan Frazier. These two boys flying everywhere, having a great match, but Wesley does retain his title. Indu Shear came out and defeated Josh Briggs and Brooks Jensen. Miko Satomura had a fantastic match in getting a victory over Zoe Stark. Sol Ruka continuing her winning ways. She's coming, just blasting onto the scene, defeating Elektra Lopez. Tiffany Stratton defeating Katana Chance. Axiom defeating Hank Walker. And in your main event, it was Carmelo Hayes and Tyler Bate in probably my match of the week. Carmelo getting the victory here. So I will tag over to Jon so we can talk about some Rampage and some Dynamite.
All right, so we're kicking off with the results from this past week's Wednesday night AEW Dynamite from the Cow Palace in San Francisco, California. So we started off Dynamite with Orange Cassidy defeating Big Bill to retain his AEW All-Atlantic Championship. We saw a bloody, not unusual, Jon Moxley cut a promo after his match last week and gave a warning to Hangman Adam Page. So this is all before the results for AEW Revolution, which is tonight as we're recording this, and we're going to discuss that at a later date. We saw the Elite weren't able to get through their entrance music as the House of Black attacked them, holding the belts high before their match tonight at Revolution. We saw Powerhouse Hobbs win the Face of the Revolution ladder match with the help of some referees, mind you. And then we saw Chris Jericho defeat Peter Avalon by pinfall, and he masterminded an assault with the Jericho Appreciators on Ricky Starks. Renee Paquette had an interview in the ring with Christian Cage, and Jack Perry warned him of their final fight, which we've learned that tonight is what they're calling a final burial match between Christian Cage and Jungle Boy Jack Perry. Moving on to Hook defeating Matt Hardy by submission to retain his FTW championship. We saw Riho defeat Tony Storm by pinfall. And a returning, well, not really returning, but Keith Lee and Dustin Rhodes are ready to take on the Mogul affiliates, which I believe they did on this most recent episode of Rampage. We saw Orange Cassidy and Danhausen take the place of Best Friends because those two are injured, and they won the Casino Tag Team Battle Royal. And closing off the night for AEW Dynamite, we saw Bryan Danielson and MJF face off one last time before their 60-minute Iron Man match tonight at Revolution. Those are the results for this past Wednesday's AEW Dynamite. I'm a little rusty because I've been on assignment. I believe this is where I tag off to Sam, I think. All right, so Sam, off to you.
Yeah, so I'm going to kick things off on my end. We had the return of Ring of Honor on Honor Club. Solid episode. If you guys haven't watched it, definitely check it out. Opening match, Mark Briscoe defeated Slim J. We had the Kingdom defeat the Infantry. Following that, we had the New Japan Pro Wrestling TV title match where Zack Sabre Jr. Successfully defended against Blake Christian. We had the Fallen Angel Christopher Daniels defeat Rohit Raju. Match of the show, if anyone hasn't seen it yet, Josh Woods and Konosuke Takeshita taking each other on, with Takeshita taking the win. We had the Embassy taking on and defeating Joe Keys, Rex Lawless, and LSG. Following that, we had Ari Daivari defeating Metalik. Madison Rainey and Sky Blue took on and defeated the Renegades. Willow Nightingale took on and defeated Lady Frost. And in the main event, Claudio Castagnoli successfully defended his title against AR Fox. Following that, we're going to hop over to Impact. That happens on the same night. Where are my Impact results? We did this again last week. Loser. There we go. Perfect. We had Heath and Rhino take on and defeat Decay. Following that, we had Mike Bailey take on and defeat Shane Haste. Contender for match of the week right there. Kenny King took on and defeated Kevin Knight. Following that, we had PCO take on and defeat the X Division champion Trey Miguel via disqualification. Bullet Club and the main event, Bullet Club, Ace Austin and Chris Bay took on, defeated your new Impact World Tag Team Champions against the Motor City Machine Guns. So I'm going to tag it right back over to Scott for Friday Night SmackDown.
All right. SmackDown kicked off with the promo of, I'd probably say, the week here. Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, finally face-to-face. And if you haven't seen this promo, I'm sure the clips are out there. Go find it. It's ridiculous. I in the last couple of weeks, I've been more invested in this match than I don't think I would have been normally. But kicking off the in-ring action, so Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan having a great match with Rhea getting the victory. Dominic Mysterio defeating Santos Escobar. I don't know what to say about this, but hey, storyline going in for him and Ray is going to be fantastic. We had some IC contenders show up. Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, LA Knight, the New Day, and Karrion Kross all showing up saying that they want an Intercontinental Championship match with Gunther at Mania. This moves on to now a fatal five-way next week to determine that number one contender. After that, we had Shayna Baszler defeating Tegan Nox. Bobby Lashley surprised everybody by coming over to SmackDown and calling out Bray Wyatt, but of course Bray doesn't show, but Uncle Howdy does. They get into it for a little bit with Uncle Howdy using his magic powers to escape getting speared out of his boots by Bobby Lashley. And then after that, our main event, Solo Sikoa taking on and defeating Sami Zayn. Jimmy showing up, but at the end, Sammy's actually the one that kind of stands tall. and escapes with his life essentially. So obviously the Bloodline storyline is continuing on. It's looking pretty good going into Mania. So that's it for SmackDown. I will tag out one more time to Jon for Rampage, and we'll close this thing out.
All right. This past week's Friday night AEW Rampage, we had Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta defeat Top Flight, Aussie Open, and Alex Reynolds and John Silver. They must have had a 4-way that night. And Riho pulling double duty this week by defeating Emi Sakura on Rampage. And we saw a lot of the same promos from AEW Dynamite this past Wednesday, also on this episode's of Friday AEW Rampage. We saw Powerhouse Hobbs defeat Serpentico, and promo from Konosuke Takeshita telling Renee Paquette that if he keeps falling short, he might have to go back to Japan. But then we saw Don Callis ask for a little of his time before he makes such a decision. Mark Briscoe feels good going into tonight's AEW Revolution, which I've learned because this was after our Revolution pick show, that we have a couple of matches on the pre-show. We have John Silver and Alex Reynolds going against Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta. Mark Briscoe and the Lucha Brothers going up against Ari Daivari and the Varsity Athletes, which is Josh Woods and Tony Nese. So that's happening tonight on Revolution. We saw, back to Rampage, we saw Dustin Rhodes and Keith Lee defeat the Mogul affiliates, which are Swerve Strickland and Parker Boudreaux. And we closed out this episode of Rampage with Ricky Starks and attacking Chris Jericho at the announce table. And the show ended with that brawl still in progress. That closes out AEW Rampage this Friday, the last show before tonight's AEW Revolution.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure that you listen to our weekly Above the Ring show. Don't forget, we will be live tweeting AEW Revolution tonight. Guys, thank you for watching. Take care.